I was diagnosed autistic pretty recently, and I've been trying to find the perfect metaphor to describe it all, but none of them quite fit. I've heard autism described as like playing a board game and everyone's played it before and read the rule book and you're just doing whatever you can to keep up. That feels the most accurate. I wanted to tell you how I am without showing you the ugly parts, so I thought I'd make a dragon instead. When I was 15, I was obsessed with dragons, which is a lie because I've always been obsessed with dragons. But when I was 15, I taught myself how to make origami dragons from a YouTube video. I could only find one of the style I liked and it was really difficult to follow. I had to pause and rewind every 10 seconds because the person used terminology that I had to Google and their hands moved really fast. I didn't get out much then though, so I watched and rewatched and practiced until I had it down to muscle memory. Over the last 10 years, I've made enough paper dragons to create a small dragon army, and I also did that to raise money for my favourite bookshop. Like books, these little guys were a quiet lifeline. From the outside, I was just some kid folding a bit of paper, but there was something to do for hands that were always moving and always told to be still. Something repetitive and familiar and predictable. As I hit uni and the working world, I learned how to make dragons out of nearly anything. Train tickets were okay, but I liked receipt paper best. Countless hospitality jobs led to an abundance of stress and abundance of receipts and ticket paper. Receipts are the best to make small dragons out of because they're really thin and holds the fold perfectly. Waitressing and bartending and coffee making are not jobs I'm designed for. There are too many different noises and smells and people who can get mad when you can't read between the lines. Sometimes during a break in a rush, everyone would fall into easy conversations and I found that hard too. So I would make dragons. Now and then someone would notice and it could lead to a conversation about dragons or origami or Lord of the Rings or art or the other person's hobbies. People loved the dragons. There are paper dragons blue tacked to tills for jobs that I left years ago, balanced on bottles behind a bar, on a friend's bookcase and left on various trains and coffee shop tables. Another way people describe autism is like wearing a mask, and the official term is actually called masking, but to me it feels much more physical than just putting something over my face. I remember being 15 and learning where to fold the paper, which lines to follow, how hard to press, which order to do the steps over and over again until it became muscle memory. But 10 years on, I don't consciously follow those lines anymore, I just know what to do. Sometimes, and bear with me here, I feel like I'm that piece of paper, folding in on myself every morning to mimic the shape of a person. The lines have been folded so many times, they know what they're doing. Some of the creases are becoming thin and corners have started to tear. Sometimes they can be flat, but the creases are still there. And if I go long periods of forcing myself into shape, cracks begin to show. Being late diagnosed autistic, especially female, means having spent your whole life pretending to yourself and the rest of the world that these struggles don't exist. Learning that you're autistic in your mid-20s feels kind of like when Truman discovers he's in the Truman Show. You're telling me that not everyone has to fold themselves to make the shape of a person, they just wake up and are that shape? Pretty wild. It's only in recognising and naming my differences that I feel able to start to embrace them. It's only in seeing I don't have to be a paper dragon that I can slowly start to unfold. But this metaphor doesn't really cover everything either. Not even really everything about masking. There are a lot of struggles with my brain working this way, but I wouldn't have such great knowledge of Doctor Who or be this creative if my cogs didn't turn like they do, and that's pretty cool. And if I wasn't autistic, I might not be able to make paper dragons.